Hello and welcome back to the podcast. This is a podcast I've tried to set up for a while. I just didn't have the time to do, and now I still don't have the time to do it. But here we are anyway today. I am joined by Mr. Lingerie Fighting Championships himself, the ring announcer, Mr. Michael Larkin. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Ring announcer, LFC podcast host, runs the social media. I have many hats with LFC, and I love what I do. I'm happy to be here with you, Maurice.
Yes, events coming up soon, I believe.
Yes, sir. November, we got Back to the Mansion coming up for LFC Lingerie Fighting Championships. The debut of pro kickboxing champion 4 times, that being Holly Dunaway, Jolene Hex, Katie Gannon. Man, so many LFC veterans and newcomers. It's going to be fun.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. But look, we're here. We're going to do a quick, short show today on this man here, Mr. CM Punk. Yeah, a lot of people talking about this guy in the online world, I'd say, because what I always say to people that I talk to in the business is everybody thinks they're a journalist, and everybody thinks they're an expert, and everybody thinks they know what happened backstage that night and everything like that. So we're just going to kind of rewind a little bit before that, to just kind of about who we're talking about today, like CM Punk, one of the biggest stars in the business today, if not the biggest overall, in my opinion.
For me, it's funny. And I'll say this to you. So the first time, looking at CM Punk, the first time I ever saw him, I knew about his work on Ring of Honor, but my first time visualizing him was he had a tryout match that viewed on Heat in 2005 against Val Venus, and he also wrestled Tajiri that same year. I mean, I've seen his OVW work against Brent Albright, who were going to be Gunner Scout on the main roster, and Shad Gaspard, God rest his soul. His rise to ECW. I was there for his debut against Just Incredible on the ECW on Sci-Fi at the Hammerstein Ballroom. I've seen his work from WWE onward. I mean, I have a picture that I hold near and dear to me that he signed my T-shirt back in 2007. That was when he was feuding with Morrison for the ECW title. I always loved his image of straight edge because it's something that I believed in. He was going against the grain. He was very anti-establishment, as we've seen over the years. Wrestling work, character, one of the best promos, one of the best mic guys ever. So, I mean, his evolution of what we've seen from in-ring and outside of the ring is untouchable. It's intangible. But sometimes his own mouth gets him into trouble, which we saw at the AEW scrum and many of times throughout his professional wrestling career.
Yeah, I'm just going to touch on it there. So you met the guy, so what was he like? Because people always say that he's this, that, and the other. What was he like to you when you met him to sign the T-shirt?
I was 15 years old at the time. It was Madison Square Garden. It was a couple weeks before SummerSlam. I asked you, hey, Punk, hello, can you sign my T-shirt? He goes, anywhere? And I said, yeah, you can just do it on the fist, because it was the old My Life, My Rules, the straight edge shirt with the fists. He was cool, just very kind. He kind of looked tired, yeah, I'm here. It's an autograph signing. We're doing a little bit.
Seem to have kind of lost Mr. Michael Larkin there at the moment, but he's filling in his CM Punk story, so hopefully we'll have him back in a moment. Oh, are you back?
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. Hold on.
Yeah, we lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, okay, let me go back and I'll get it. Give me 2 seconds. My apologies.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, now we have two Michael Larkins here now. I'm going to have to just I'll remove this one. Here we go.
There we go. Okay. So back to what I was saying. So the fact of the matter is, when you had CM Punk back in the day, I was 15. He was a year onto the main roster. That was a different CM Punk than what we have now. So he was just learning. This was before the pipe bomb, before everything. So at the time, he was fine. You know what I'm saying? I could tell that was his attitude. He was very, just lean back, play forward. But that was about all I could say about it.
Yeah, we'll touch on the pipe bomb there because, it's one of, the most famous moments, really, in recent memory, isn't it? So that was, in 2011, June 2011. And,
oh, yeah. That was right after Capital Punishment, going towards the whole thing with him and John Cena, Money in the Bank. It's one of the most legendary promos ever. He let it all out, talking about Ring of Honor, Colt Cabana, how you doing? So this was going into the great story of, this is how I feel about WWE. This is where we're going with John Cena, and it made for what would become the Summer Punk that year.
Yeah, and then obviously what happened with him in WWE when he left, and there was the whole contract thing when he was leaving, but he really wasn't leaving, and then he did leave eventually. seemed to have clashed with Vince and Triple H there. And then he went into the UFC. And, the old UFC, you were actually recently on a show with one of his opponents, Mr. Mike Jackson. How did you bring it up with him?
Oh, absolutely. We talked about it when I had on the LFC podcast. It was one of those things where it's like, hey, I didn't really want to hurt the guy. So he did what he did. We took the backlash that he had from that fight with him in UFC. So it was one of those things where it's like, I didn't want to hurt him too much. It should have ended quicker. But Mike the True Jackson was just doing what he was doing. And I mean, bringing up that, he gets it all the time. So, I mean, beating one of his opponents in the UFC and one of his, I'll say, failed UFC runs. But when it comes to CM Punk, I got to give him credit. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't want to step in the octagon. So it's one of those things. I give him credit, but it's like he was way over his head. He was too cocky.
Yeah. He was like, but still, he had the balls to get in there and do it,
I applaud him.
Yeah. And then there was a long, long gap before he came to AEW. And I remember that night when he did show up at AEW, like I haven't heard a pop like that in, I don't even know if Austin got a pop that loud at WrestleMania when I was there. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing, too, because, I mean, we've seen Stone Cold Steve Austin over the years. That was great to see him against Kevin Owens, but you're looking at a man who stepped away from professional, hasn't been there for 7 years, makes his debut on AEW. That whole behind the fans, their fans crying, it was their hero coming back to what we all know him from, that being the professional wrestling world, and getting to see him happy. That was the main thing, the adulation. And we'll get into what a difference a year makes. But that adulation, that happiness, what you saw in his face, that was just Phil saying, hey, I'm here, I'm back, and I'm ready to take on this journey and ready to go on to my next part of my career.
That was 14 months ago. Like a lot of shit has went down since then. But obviously, this is one of the more memorable feuds he had with MJF, like probably the two best talkers in the business now. What did you think of that feud?
It's crazy that you bring that up because I remember watching his debut. Darby Allin, then he had that brief thing with Eddie Kingston, but that was the feud that made it. You had the Piper Valentine's the dog collar match. You had MJF, who's so young, who has so much potential to talk. CM Punk being his idol, they included all elements of, hey, this is my idol. I met you, never meet your idols. And then, boom, here we are. The storyline was amazing. Everything that we saw going into that really lived up to the hype. It's what the fans wanted to see. And I think we all got our money's worth. Made MJF a star, made CM Punk be that veteran that he is. We got to see him come back to Ring of Honor 2003, CM Punk. So I think it added all the layers and elements and really is one of the most memorable parts of CM Punk's AEW career.
While we're on MJF, what do you think of that guy?
Man, I remember seeing him at the NYWC, New York Wrestling Collection, for Deer Park on Long Island. He's a graduated creative pro trained by the one and only Brian Myers, a.k.a. Kurt Hawkins. I've seen his run on the Northeast scene. I think his in-ring work is amazing. I think his promo work is amazing. He's a bona fide star, and he's busted his ass for so many years. And I think it's funny because Bear Bronson, who's a part of the Bear Country over there now, I know they just have a new name in AEW. He's there. They graduated together. I think it's amazing just to see the trajectory of where he was in promotions like CZW and, MLW. And I mean, it's just amazing to see his historic rise. And I think it's well deserved. He put in the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In May then of 2021, which is not that long ago either, he had his first world title win against Adam Page. That was a huge moment for him, like, because he hadn't held the belt, I think, in, 10 years beforehand?
Yeah, 10 years.
Absolutely crazy, wasn't it? And then,
it was.
Go ahead.
The thing, too, that I have about it is, like, it's amazing just to see because that started where we are now. But, I mean, I remember watching that feud, and I'm just like, okay. And I remember he made the line. And what a lot of people got confused about was it's like, wait a minute, is Adam Page turning heel? What the hell's going on here? Because it wasn't very a cowboy, hey, man, Adam Page promo, cowboy shit. So I enjoyed what I saw going into that. I thought the match was good. And, I mean, it was there right now just to see the trajectory of CM Punk getting a title that he hasn't had in 10 years. I mean, he had the longest reign with that title in 2012, lost it to The Rock at Royal Rumble 2013. So I think it was amazing just to see in 2021, 2022, the whole nine, that CM Punk is a champion again. So, I mean, it made for something that was really a lot of moments that people are going to keep talking about.
And then, of course, injury hits.
Yep.
Title gone.
twice, just jumping into the crowd, man. That stage dive right into the crowd, boom, takes him out. Then, the interim champ, Moxley, then we come back. We run it back with Moxley, wins the title again, and that leads to the media scrum deal, man. So, I mean, it's amazing just to see, again, what difference a year makes. That title feud, unfortunately, injury strikes, and then here we are today. It's such a snowball effect, Maurice.
September 5th is when he won the second title, and we're looking at things now. Today is the 26th of October. It seems like fucking so long ago since this has happened, doesn't it? But it's only actually last month. It's hard to believe.
Right. And I mean, happy birthday to CM Punk as we're recording this. He turns 44 years old today. Man,
I'm sure, hey, Mike, I'm sure he's not going to be watching, but happy birthday.
I know, but hey, why not give him a little happy birthday to the punker? Have a Pepsi. No, it's one of those things where I look at it from a stance too. It's been a month. I mean, the only thing that we've had coming out of this is we know that Ace Steel is the only one out of the parties that has been released. And taking a bite out of life. So, I mean, hey, when it comes to what we saw there's so much involved. They keep saying ongoing investigation. And I mean, we'll get to that. But fuck, man, like it's been a month now and we're still talking about it. It's crazy. It's a whirlwind for sure.
I don't think if you're looking at things that Tony Khan is going to want to get rid of CM Punk simply from a revenue point of view. Like, I don't think anyone has brought in as much money as him since he came into that company.
It's crazy. Like, you watch the media scrum and you see his face when he pushes that hand, man. Like, he doesn't need to be talking about this. I got this. I'm trying to run a fucking business. I'm old, I'm tired, and I work with children, as it says. But the thing, too, is now you hear the rumors, the feelers of him coming back to the WWE. And, I mean, Triple H, it's so funny to think about because this is the same man in his pipe bomb that we talked about. The doofus son-in-law and his bimbo daughter. You know what I'm saying? That's so crazy. And I mean, would Triple H take him back? I mean, Triple H has gotten people like Bruno Sammartino, Ultimate Warrior came back. Like, there's so many people that came back. If CM Punk were to go back there, I know a lot of people don't want to see it because they find him to be a headache, which I can understand from a business standpoint. But
that's what I'm saying. But they don't know him. How do they know he's a headache? Who the fuck knows what goes on?
Who does? I mean, this is what we hear, Maurice. But I mean, and I agree with you because why would you want to lose a star like that? And CM Punk, you can't. Tony Khan has a marketer on his hands. He has money. He has money on his hands.
Yeah, if you look at Triple H, okay, and now that he's in this supposed power, because I don't believe that I'm one of the few people that don't believe that Vince McMahon is completely gone. Look at me and you. You're in America. I'm in Ireland. We're talking. We're live. Yeah. We're right here. Vince McMahon can sit at home and still have influence on the show. Now, Triple H, I think the show and the product is somewhat the same, but the wrestlers and the characters are different. He's brought in new people. He's brought back people that were fired, let go, whatever, and he's freshened it up in that way. But if you look at the TV shows, they're kind of still the same, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he set the reset button on a lot of the characters, like we see, like Karrion Kross, and he's brought a lot of amazing people back. I mean, the Dexter Lumis stuff at The Miz is an example of stuff that's the same because I know they're adding layers to it, but it's just like whatever. Man, like last night on Raw, we had Nikki Cross. 2 nights ago, excuse me. Nikki Cross is back to being crazy Nikki Cross. I mean, he's trying to do a reset. He's trying his best to do a redo, but there's a lot of similarities that are still happening what we saw in the previous regime with Vince McMahon. So, I mean, it's different. It's cool. I mean, we're trying. I mean, Triple H is trying. We've only been like a few months into it, but I'm curious to see where it goes. But I see a lot of similarities to what we've had before, too. I agree.
Yeah, I'm looking at say, for example, Triple H. And obviously he's been working closely with Vince for a long time now because this was going to inevitably happen anyway. But if you look at what Cody Rhodes done to the throne and all that stuff that went on with Triple H, Cody walks back in, massive match at WrestleMania last year, hatchets buried, whatever. I think Triple H is going to inherit that from Vince McMahon. So I wouldn't completely rule out CM Punk going back to the WWE someday, but it's really Tony Khan and AEW to hold the cards at the moment. What do you think?
I agree. And I mean, it's so crazy. Like we talk about, why would you want to lose someone like that? And I mean, with the feelers, I mean, like I said, anything happens. Never say never with WWE. I know the last time Punk was there, he just did the Fox show. He did backstage. But the thing, too, is I wouldn't want to lose him. There's so much you could do with a CM Punk and from a revenue standpoint, like you mentioned. I wouldn't lose him. I tried my best to keep holding on with him, try to do something to make sure that he stays put in AEW because he's such an asset. I mean, I look at the show, 3 of my favorite people, and we've talked about this, MJF, CM Punk, Chris Jericho. That's what I live with AEW, man. That's like the 3 pillars in my opinion. I love it. I think everything else is fine, but when I tune into that show, those are the 3 I watch.
Yeah, yeah. What way do you see all this playing out?
Uh, man, I hope to God that he tries to keep him. I don't know what's going to happen with the Bucks. I mean, you already have people like Brandon Cutler and people back. I think the Bucks will stay. I think Kenny Omega will stay. I don't see them. You know, they've stripped them of the titles. I'm curious to see where that direction goes. I think they'll be back. But if I were Tony Khan, I would look to do whatever I can to keep CM Punk. I would do whatever I can to make sure the locker room is stable because a lot of crap's been going on. I just make sure that everything just levels out. Make it not, as he is, because he needs more oomph for what he's doing, Tony Khan. So he needs to put some more oomph into it, trying to get CM Punk and just leveling the playing field. I hope he comes back, to be honest with you, because I think he's a great part of the product, revenue standpoint. We'll say it over and over again, but I think he'll be back. Do I think he'll go to WWE? Like you said, maybe, but I don't see it that time being right now.
Yeah, I think it's very telling as well that there's been a statement or whatever, and Ace Steel has been released, and he was involved in that as well. And I think, maybe if you were going to do it, you would release the joint statement. I don't know, but they're obviously pillars apart. Like Ace Steel is just he's not really anybody that people look for in the roster or when they're watching TV. He's just kind of an extra, I guess. But I think it's very telling that that he hasn't been, we'll say, released or any statement has been made on it, because I reckon there's negotiations going on in the background to try keep him in the business there.
Agreed. And I mean, it's so interesting that we talk about it. Like we hear everything. Like Ariel Helwani tried to press him on his show, when Tony Khan wasn't going to talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Stupid idea.
I know. I get what he was trying to do, but it was stupid. And I mean, like trying to see what he was doing there as well, talking about, he kind of let it slip that maybe Punk might have like some office stuff as well. I don't know. I think Punk has a great role in the company, so he's going to do whatever he can to keep him. And I really, really am looking forward to seeing the trajectory where AEW goes now, because they have MJF looking to be at the top of the card with Moxley. You got to see something with MJF and CM Punk again. I think they'll renew that if we could get them. And I hope so, because there's so many fresh talents and there's so many great people that he could work with. It's just you have to have that talk of, because, people say what they say, anti-Punk, what have you. I mean, we don't really know it. We don't know what's going on. We're just talking about it like you mentioned. So hopefully everything can get resolved and everything can be rendered so we can have a nice working environment, man, because there's just such a lot of going on.
Yeah, that's the thing that annoys me online, especially on Twitter. I think I need to get off that thing, man. It's just when people are like giving their opinion, oh, fuck CM Punk, he should never be in the business again for what he done and this and that and the other, and he's a troublemaker and a shit stirrer and whatever. And I'm like, were you ever in the business? Now, I'm not claiming that I'm an expert, and I never claim to be an expert on this podcast. I talk to people within the business. That's as close as I'm going. I'm not in it. You're a little bit closer. You're in the combat sports business in a way, but we're still not experts on it. But it's nice to talk about these things, isn't it?
Bro, it is. And I mean, we have our opinions. I mean, we've got to interview a lot of great people. I'm surrounded by a lot of great people, but I don't know the insides and outs of the business. I could just give you my opinion and what I think, but I'm not that person. And I always look at it like Twitter too. Like, I fucking hate Twitter. I'll say it right now to you. Like, it's just people giving so much semantics and so many of their opinions that just, they don't know. They just want to say, oh, this and all that, but you don't know what's going on with that person in their shoes. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So once we see it from the source themselves and not from the dirt sheets and not from people on Twitter that have no business commenting or have nothing to, really to add, just bullshit. So I'm just looking to see where it goes, look at it from the source themselves and let them do what they do. You know what I'm saying? Let's just let the universe unfold as it should.
Yeah. What's your prediction for how this one is going to ultimately end?
My prediction is we're going to get the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega back. Maybe it's a 50-50 shot on the whole CM Punk deal, but if it were me, I hope he comes back. But if he goes to WWE and the feelers go out there, I wouldn't be surprised. But for me, I hope, and I'm being optimistic, that everything gets resolved and everything is going to be on the up and up for the All Elite Wrestling side of things and CM Punk and himself.
Mm-hmm. And for yourself then, just before we wrap up, because we're only doing a quick 20-minute show today, just for your podcast, I'm obviously going to link it below. Tell people what's going on and what you do for maybe someone that's here that hasn't seen our previous interviews.
Well, absolutely. My name is Michael Larkin. I host a variety of podcasts. I've been dubbed by my good friend Dazzy Lee the podcast machine. I'm all over the place, man, interviewing people and on the mic with Mike, from musicians, wrestlers, adult stars, which I know you got a great one coming up, my friend.
Tomorrow night.
Yes, sir. I'll be tuning in. Lingerie Fighting Championships, man. I host the show Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, which stands for Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the three key elements that make women the work of art that they are. The LFC Network on Roku, lfcfights.com. Your episode, Mr. Maurice, is coming up real soon for the VIP members to check out more. Yeah, buddy. But that's what I do, man. I'm just a podcast host that loves what he does, interviews a lot of great people, does a lot of great work for Lingerie Fighting Championships. I do some ring announcing. I do the socials. I do the podcast. I'm all up in the mix. And, I'm just a hardworking man like yourself, man. We're out here grinding and putting on some great quality content for the people.
Yeah, you sound like a lot like me because of the stuff that I do, man. I had a fucking week from hell this week. I had 4 shows lined up and they were all fucking cancelled for different reasons.
Oh, man. Oh, been there. Been there.
But I always keep a couple of shows in the bank, so I'm good for today. I'm good for like the next 2 shows, and then I'm recording 2 more this week for the week after. So I'm getting back on track now anyway. And look, great to catch up with you. I'm sure I'll be seeing you on your side soon, and you'll probably be back here because I want to do kind of shows like this where we just talk about pro wrestling every so often.
Oh, same here, man. I'm happy to give my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty going around, but I like giving my analysis on stuff like this. And I'll always say this, man, don't believe everything that you hear. Let it unfold and just, it makes for great discussion and great topics because there's a lot of great people that apply their craft in the professional wrestling business that I have a lot of respect for, as do you. So it's a great time to be a wrestling fan and just enjoy the variety that's out there.
Summed it up perfectly, man. Listen, pleasure to talk to you today. We'll catch up again soon, yeah?
Thank you, Maurice. Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, do you know what I never say in these videos? Please like and subscribe and all that kind of thing. I've actually never said that on a video. So let's see if people like and subscribe. Good
Get
night.
on there and subscribe. Oh my